My name's John Norian. I'm with HRC Fertility. It's a very large reproductive practice based in Southern California. I'm in the Los Angeles area. We have 9 offices total. We have access, because of this, to wonderful cutting-edge research and extremely high-level embryology laboratories. I go between 2 offices myself in the Pasadena area, and then a bedroom community a little east of there. By the way, as far as English, is everyone comfortable with that, or would you like to translate into French?
No French.
No French.
No French.
Perfect. Okay. Just a little background about myself. I grew up in Los Angeles and West LA, close to UCLA or Beverly Hills area. I'm a board-certified reproductive endocrinologist, reproductive specialist. So I did advanced training in reproductive health. I started at Berkeley for undergrad, and I did my medical school in Europe at the Royal College of Surgeons. And then my dad is from the New York area, so I lived in New York City and did my residency there. And then I was recruited down to the Bethesda, to Washington, D.C., and completed my fellowship at the NIH. Today is all about family. It's all about children. These are my children. The last one, Caroline, we struggled with fertility issues ourselves and went through the process of in vitro, and we used PGS to ensure that we had a high quality embryo. That's Jack and Alex. I enjoy running, especially spending time in the outdoors. Trail running is sort of my main go-to. In terms of things that we can be doing now, I very much incorporate a holistic approach into our practice. Lifestyle things, especially for men, to focus on now are do your best to take a general multivitamin. Folic acid, B vitamins, those are important. CoQ10, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, along with vitamin C, are antioxidants where there's good evidence to suggest improvement in sperm quality. Nutrition, I encourage people to eat whole food, eat real food. You go to supermarkets these days, there's so much processed carbohydrates, processed food products. Do your best to avoid tobacco. Remember, the life of a sperm is between 6 and 8 weeks, going from a very primordial sperm cell to a completely mature spermatocyte. In terms of alcohol, keep it more at a minimum. In weight, keep your weight under control. As far as the male goes, first and foremost, getting a complete semen analysis I think is hugely important. It assesses the concentration or the amount of sperm, also the movement, how well the sperm are swimming. Usually they're graded on a rapid, slow, twitching, or not moving at all scale. The shape of the sperm is also probably the most important semen parameter when we look at the sperm. Ways to optimize male fertility, these are the main things. Moderate exercise is good. That's really sort of getting the blood flowing through the body and also the testicles, just clearing out toxins. Don't overdo it as far as exercise. Getting that runner's high, where you get your body's natural endorphins or epinephrine, is not so great for ovulation, for egg production, or sperm production. So moderate exercise, on the ellipse, a light jogging, brisk walking, that sort of thing. Genetic screening, I think you've heard a little bit about genetics. I mentioned it earlier today in the talk about egg donors. Remember, being human, we all carry silent disease. We all carry silent mutations. Many times they're recessive. Occasionally they're on the X or Y chromosomes, things like hemophilia, or they're inherited different ways. So getting a simple genetic test done in the US, typically less than $300, we can screen a person's genetics quite easily. And if you were to carry a mutation, that's important for us to know so that we can make sure the egg donor doesn't carry the same mutation, of course. As far as embryos, I know that you saw talks this morning about this. What we do with in vitro is we appropriately stimulate a woman's ovaries so that we can ensure getting high quality eggs. We fertilize the eggs. We use typically a technique of microfertilization where we identify the best looking, best moving sperm, and we inseminate a single sperm into the egg. Otherwise, we let the fertilized eggs or embryos grow. There's 1 cell, 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, compaction, and then beautiful embryonic expansion. In the bottom right is what all of us in the room looked like before we implanted into our mom's or surrogate's uterus. And those embryos typically have about 128 cells. Here's a little video that I like to play. I think it's really there. So this is day 1, now day 2, 2 cells, 4 cells. The embryo just dividing. This is crazy. This is like human life. 8 cells, day 3. And it then becomes sort of a glob, compaction. And then here is beautiful, beautiful embryonic expansion. We need like Chariots of Fire music playing, you know, during this. But right in here, this is the portion that would develop into the baby, and then the outside is the portion that would develop into the placenta, or the implantation area. Chromosome screening, I know that some of the doctors touched on that earlier this morning. It's not always necessary when we work with egg donors. And the reason is egg donors generally are young, they're healthy, they have good eggs. Pregnancy rates are really quite good with or without PGS. So when we use PGS with egg donors, it's a little more complicated as far as the indications. What we do, the technique, is we biopsy the outside of the embryo. We get typically 4, 5, 6 cells. That helps improve the accuracy because we have 4, 5, or 6 cells. And then we assess, are they chromosomally normal? In the old days, the idea of biopsying just 1 cell at day 3 proved not to be accurate enough. The other thing that we do is we screen it on platforms where we probe the cells over 5,000, 10,000 times, and we're looking for that exact precise chromosome number. It's using sequencing, genetic sequencing. It's how we can also determine the sex of the embryo, if you'd prefer a boy or a girl. That's how people figure it out. To be fair, for me, there's a reason this is listed first. It's all about healthy live-born children. The indications, you see, the main indication, I'll be fair, in my practice is working with women who are a little bit older. And sometimes we do that even with egg donation, where we work with a sister. Just recently we graduated a couple where we used the partner's sister, and she of course was 40. And I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, guys, your sister's 40. So it makes it a little more challenging for me, but that's okay. And we did PGS because we wanted to make sure that we weren't implanting an embryo with the wrong number, something like Down syndrome. It allows me as a fertility specialist to feel more confident implanting just a single embryo and having a very strong pregnancy rate between typically 62 to 70%, usually about 65% when we're putting back just a single embryo. It does tell me more information about a person's genetics, biology. If I implant a single embryo and we don't have any implantation, oh my gosh, I'm very upset. But then we start looking for other causes. Is there more of a uterine issue that we weren't aware of? Is the window of implantation, maybe that woman needs 1 extra day of progesterone? So things like those micro details, PGS can come in. But like I said, the pregnancy rates are high with or without PGS. The embryo transfer. I know Dr. Ringler spoke about this earlier, but this is, I love videos. This is me sort of guiding that little angel hair piece of pasta with the embryo into the uterus. I'm very particular to make sure that it transfers about 1.5 to 2 centimeters from the dome of the uterus. And right there is the little fluid droplet with the embryo. This, by the way, was not me. I get a little bit compulsive about the transfers itself. I think the doctor there came out a little bit too quickly. When we do the transfer, I like to stay put for about 20 to 30 seconds, just as far as the fluid flow, like the river, the laminar flow, to allow the embryo that bit more time to implant. But then these are the micro details. I'm sure with each of your career, there's all these sub little details. Success rates, like I mentioned, typically between 65 to 80%, depending on how many embryos we implant, or if we did PGS or not. Important factors to consider. I spoke about selecting a donor this morning. I hope that talk was helpful. We really focus on female age and also evaluating a good donor. Things like AMH levels are hugely important. Especially if we're working with 2 sperm sources and we want to make sure that we have good numbers of embryos of both dads. Optimal surrogate, we really want to dig into her prior medical history, obstetrical history, were they easy pregnancies? And we also would do uterine evaluation. That's where I do a saline ultrasound to make sure there's no polyps or fibroids. And then the use of PGS may or may not be indicated. HRC fertility, first and foremost are success rates. I pride myself on having extremely high success rates. Individualized patient-centered care is such a phrase, but that's where you have a dedicated doctor, a dedicated nurse guiding you through the process. Every time your donor or surrogate is seen, we send out emails to let you know your donor came in, she had an ultrasound, her estrogen level was 800, she's doing great. So very involved in communication and involved locally, nationally, and beyond. This is my team. We have a wonderful team of nurses, administrators, liaisons. We're conveniently located not too far from LAX airport. The andrology, these are some of the specialists who handle the sperm, and the embryologists who handle the embryos. And these are some useful links, a variety, ASRM, SART. Path to Parenthood's a wonderful LGBT-focused organization. With good, usable information. So that's that, a little bit of an overview. I don't know if you guys have any questions. One of the things also that's a little bit unique with me is that I do about 98, 99% of my own retrievals, my own transfers. I'm very involved in the process. And I do most all of my own ultrasounds even. We try to minimize the use of technicians to do the ultrasounds, and there's no doctor of the day. I am your doctor.